Peace and blessings, and welcome back to the Heritage Hip Hop Podcast. We are the 30 for 30 of independent artists, independent music. And today, not only are we more than music, we also speak to the minds that push the culture forward. See, some people are entertained and some people are acknowledgeable through entertainment. And today we speak to a person who not only takes the culture forward, but she puts the culture on blast. Yes, she puts the culture on blast by making it not only aware of what it is, but showing you your place within it. Please introduce yourself to the people.
Oh, I like that introduction. Oh, I gotta live up to it now. Hey, everybody. My name is Skorpyen November. I am a podcast consultant and podcaster, and I love me some Karev. So that's why I'm here, because I love Karev. I often tell him that he is the greatest, and you all that listen to this podcast know that he is too. So I'm standing out right now. So Thank you all for having me. Thank you, Karev.
Not a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my friend, for real. And we met through a consulting class to build better brands. Shout out to Chris Ward Jr., the CEO of it. And today, I wanted to show how like-minded individuals in like fields can come together and produce magic. You know, hip hop is more than music to me. It's the culture which we live by, how we celebrate God through our creativity. So I'm gonna ask you this: why a podcast? Why did you want to start something like that?
Oh, that's a heavy question. In the sense, I'll just share this. I started podcasting to connect with and represent folk like me. And what I mean folk like me is that didn't necessarily see themselves, their experiences, their life experiences, their thoughts, their opinions necessarily represented within the space of podcasting. And so I was like, okay, and the only way that I could see that happening was, okay, either you do it or you wait for somebody else to do it, right? And sometimes if you wait for other folks to do stuff, it'll never get done. So I was like, just do it. Just go out there, and the folks that are meant to find you will find you. The folks that you are meant for will connect with you, and just keep pushing.
You know what I've learned in my journey through podcasting is that the funnel is the way we build. Some people build from big perspectives down to something small, and some people have a small perspective that grows into something big. Some people call it the funnel. I call it the hourglass, because depending on where you go or how you look at it, you never know where the sands of time are going to take you, you know?
True.
And I've realized that most of us are corporate minded and network minded rather than single entity minded. So as a creator, how did you go about yours? Did you start with the network mind, or did you start with, let me start one thing and see where it goes?
Let me start one thing and see where it goes. Because it was just initially just about creating and holding space, right? And I wanted to be intentional about that. I was like, very clearly, I was like, I have to do this if I want to ensure that I am being represented in the way that I want to be represented. And so that's where it started at. And so it just started for me. I'll say this: I have 3 podcasts, right? I think that's where you were going with this. I have 3 podcasts. And it started with one podcast, Mouth Skorpyo podcast. And that podcast is the podcast where I covered everything. It was at that point, right? I still say is because it's still in existence. I was talking about van dwelling. I was talking about polygamy. I was talking about reality television, you name it. If I was interested in it and it moved me in some way, I was talking about it. But I was like, it's too much. You know, this is too much for one thing, because, you know, I was like, I'm going to drive people away that don't necessarily connect with this, and it's going to be too much for them. Now, I know that just because I connect with you on one thing doesn't mean we're going to connect on all things. And I have to honor that and honor that connection. So then I started another podcast, which was the Fyx Podcast, which is the podcast where I share my love of television, reality TV, Black-led movies and television shows. And then out of that, I was like, after watching some reality shows about relationships or what have you, I was like, I want to share my story too. I was like, maybe people will connect with this. And I love me some music. I love me some R&B music, right? So I was like, and some hip hop. And I was like, how do I incorporate those two, connect those two together. So that's where you get If It Isn't Love podcast, where love and relationship lessons meet storytelling and music. Why? Because I tell relationship stories and lessons that I have learned throughout my life of dating and relationships or what have you. And I use music as the backdrop to reinforce those stories. So there you have where love and relationship lessons meet storytelling and music. And so that covers that gives me a way to connect with multiple types of people that all connect with me and that we share some commonality with. And so I can build and grow.
That's awesome, because that reminds me of me so much. And that's why building with you is just so necessary. Because I grow from talking with you, you know? When I started Heritage Hip Hop, it was not to be this whatsoever at all. But through the graces of God, it is what it is, you know? And I know I love to interview people, but there's so much more I want to do, but I wanted to do it under the umbrella of hip hop because that's what people can recognize as Black culture today. You see what I'm saying? You took the Skorpyen itself to make the brand ambassador for who your brand is. Why?
Do you know this is the first time I've been asked that question, right? Usually I lead off with that I'm a Scorpio born in the month of November, but I was like, I'll let it rock this time. Well, because I am a Scorpio, right? Mm-hmm. And much like a Scorpion, me, I try to lead in all of my interactions with folk and throughout life with love and respect being behind everything I do. That's the intent behind everything I do. My interactions, that's the way I'm going to approach you. That's the way I'm going to say hi. You can't tell me how to respond to you. You know, what you get, you pinch me and I punch you. Okay. So then I was always taught, it was always said to me as I was, as a child growing, that I had a smart mouth. And so I was like, Smart Mouth Skorpyo. Okay, here it goes. So it's the name of the first podcast. And so it just went on from there. But I thought the name of my first podcast is really indicative of who I was at the moment that podcast was created. I really did have a smart mouth, still do sometimes, but it's never meant with malice. You know, it's just, sometimes it comes across that way. And I have to be conscious of that sometimes as well. So.
That's enticing to me because, see, to get ready for this, I had to go back to my notes.
Uh-oh.
I looked up the spiritual significance of a scorpion. Did you ever do that?
No, I have not.
So let's have a lesson in scorpions, especially Black ones. All right. Scorpions are used in spirituality to make a clean break and to give birth to new visions. Did you know that?
I can believe that, and I'll tell you why.
Tell me.
Because I'm of the thing that I don't know if it benefits me that I can make clean breaks from folk. That once a line is crossed, I can make that clean break and move on and not look back. Right? And if I'm looking back for growth purposes, not necessarily to backtrack. So once that break is made, that means that for me, what that means is that I needed to let that go for me. And that there is something that I need to do on the other side of that relationship, that break, that friendship, what have you. So I can believe that.
It means that as a person with a Skorpyen as a moniker, you can know how to take breaks. You know, you're big on growth, rebirth. Mm-hmm. You know, you're good on cutting things and people off. You are about justice. You are silent. You're very introspective. And when I think about that spiritual animal in your podcast, it fits so perfectly because a lot of podcasts I've heard are a bunch of people just talking about nothing. They just have a microphone and they just blah, 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 blah. But with you, you're opening the doors to the understanding of perspective, not just of an idea or a thought. Is that important to you?
It is. And look at you again telling all my business on a podcast. Yeah, he doesn't mean to. He just says. But yeah, it is. It's important to me to understand and to seek understanding of things. And just as when I listen to certain things or I read certain things, I'm exposed to new thoughts, ideas, opinions, etc., that I would not have known about unless introduced to this new thing, right? So I believe as humans that is what we do. We engage in that way. We present information. We present things that are interesting to us, and to move throughout life, assuming that is just just because we may be of a similar background, educated at the same place, same environment, all those things. It still doesn't mean that our necessary our upbringing and our exposure was the same. It doesn't mean that. And it doesn't mean that what I pay attention to and gravitate to is what you're going to pay attention and gravitate to. However, if I present it in such a way where you're interested in me, then you may be interested in what I have to say, and that will cause a thought in you. Do you get what I'm saying?
A lot of the stuff that you're saying are cutting
more.
off. A lot of stuff you're saying is cutting off. The internet's bugging out. You froze twice.
Okay, where did I stop?
We're going to continue. I'm gonna let you know, because when I tap this, I'm letting you know it going out. All right.
We give the hand signals.
So check this out. I want to ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
I love all three of your podcasts, and being a guest on one of them, was mind blowing to me, actually, because we went over the far side, passing me by, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the If It Isn't Love, right?
Yes.
If It Isn't Love podcast, right?
Yes.
And everybody, that's the podcast is available on Spotify. Is it on Anchor?
It is. It's on iHeart. It's on Apple. It's on all your major podcast listening platforms.
Alley-oop, slam dunk. There you go. So I was on that episode, and we really broke down the lyrics and the meaning of a song. Mm-hmm. In today's society, people get high by music. They don't take in the understanding of the song. So by doing your podcast on If It Isn't Love, what is the love that you're looking to express or that you want people to find within that podcast?
It's multiple layers of love, right? The love of music, the love of of storytelling, love of self, love of others, love of life, love of God, which in turn is self. There's a lot of love to go around. Everything is love if you look at it that way. We are all love if you look at it that way, right? And if it isn't love, who wants it? What's the point of it? If it isn't love, what purpose does it serve you? That's why I named the podcast If It Isn't Love. If it's not love, what does it serve you?
Service is something that people question all the time, because everybody's big on wanting to be served, but a lot of people are not big on giving somebody the joy of being serviced. What joy are you servicing the world with your voice?
I don't know what joy the world gets out of my voice. That the world will have to answer that, right? But I believe when you serve others, there is love. That's love, right? When you are moving within the space of love, that's service. It doesn't have to be an act of saying, I'm going to do this, but when you exude love, that's what you're giving. That's a service as well. So
it's also language.
When you move within the space of love, and that is your intent behind things that you do, you are serving the world in that way, because you're automatically going to extend grace. You're automatically going to try to understand. You're automatically going to extend respect to folk, right? Because you're moving within the space of love. Well, God is love.
Well, but see, that goes to show you that the world really doesn't know what love is, because love is also a language, and nobody's speaking the same language nowadays. And I believe that people aren't speaking the same language because we're too busy chasing the promise of something that never was, or we're electronically being enabled to be enslaved instead of free thinking. How do you feel about that?
I believe that could be true. I believe that can be true. I think people, when you say everyone's not speaking the same language, that means either you're moving within the capacity of love or you're not. Those are the only two other, that's the only two that matter, right? You're either moving within the capacity of love or you are not. And as far as the group think goes, I think that comes from folks that are trying to control, right? Since we're talking about love, let's talk about love and control. When people think of love, right, they often think, like, especially within the bounds of a romantic relationship, they think because they love someone and someone loves them back, then that gives them the right to control. That gives them a sense of ownership, right? And so then within that ownership, they want to tell someone what to do, how to do, and when to do it, and all those things, right? That's not what love is. Love isn't control. And people move within that space often. So that's when you have people trying to control what other people think, and it becomes this social constructed thing. Like either you're thinking this way, you're thinking outside of this way. Now allowing people the grace, because when you love folks, you allow them grace to exist.
Wow. Let me unpack that. Wow. You allow people the grace to exist. Grace is a term of mercy.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? We live in a merciless society, especially when it comes to business. And you know what's deep about what you just said? I always believe everybody wants love, but nobody's willing to accept love. I don't think people accept love for what it is. People want lies. And one of the biggest lies that people have taken control and hold to is chasing the bag. When you chase a bag, that means the bag's running away from you. Mm-hmm. And how is that possible if you are the bag that you're chasing? So that means you don't know yourself. And when you talked about mercy and grace and mercy is so spiritually inclined that if you can't serve, you can never be blessed. I want to ask you this off of what you said. By serving the world your purpose, once again, what is the blessing you've received from doing that?
That is the blessing.
Explain.
That is the blessing. To be able to live within your purpose and to walk within that, that's the blessing. Because you're walking within love, so you're automatically receiving the love, right? Isn't that what it is? Isn't love an automatic act of reciprocation?
Is it?
It is. When you're walking within your purpose, walking within love, you're automatically serving. You're already being filled. That's you. That's what you get. Walking in your purpose is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes that can be a selfish act in itself, walking within your purpose, because it fills you.
The world is scared of people with purpose. Well, yeah, because the world is scared of people with purpose. But nah, I said the world is scared of people with purpose. What do you say?
I say, let me frame it this way. Let me go back this way.
Mm-hmm.
I just think the world doesn't know how to receive love. Right? Because like is attracted to like. And the whole world is not outside of the bounds of love. You have a greater number of people that are within the bounds of love, right? That operate within that purpose, that understand what love is and seek to spread to walk within that purpose and serve and share love, right? Because love is love. So they're attracted to other folks. So like is attracted to like. And so when you have negative attracted to negative, that's what's going to be louder. I don't know why that is so. Mm-hmm. But then you have people that are doing that, and then they're spreading like the saying, one bad apple spoils the bunch, right? Are you gonna keep the bunch, or are you gonna throw away the whole? You gonna take out that one bad apple? No, you're gonna throw away the whole bunch. So follow me. I ain't telling y'all to throw away nobody. But what you're going to do is you're going to try to you want to spread love to everybody. You can't just pick and choose who you spread love to. sometimes people say I'm operating within the space of love, but they only want to share it with certain people. That's not how it works. If you love, you love.
Or
everybody's deserving of love.
facts.
And so people aren't necessarily scared of it. They may not even know what it is.
But I respect everything you said because it brought me to this thought. Pain is universal and love is relative. A lot of people don't understand what love is. So you doing your podcast is a revelation of love for loving yourself and sharing that with the world. And you will find the universe bringing people to rest with you in words and conversation, because like minds, that's the like part, like minds will breed understanding. The attractive negative that you said, I get, because pain is universal. Everybody knows more about pain than they do love. Period. There's nobody who can ever make me think any different, because that's all we know. That's all we hear. That's all we study. We even entertain ourselves through pain. So I have to ask you this then. What's the most painful thing that you've experienced being a podcaster that brought you so many positives that you didn't even think it was possible?
I don't know, Karev. I've never thought about it in that way. And the reason being is because I enjoy doing what I do so much that I can't answer that, because I enjoy what I do so much. I don't have an answer for you.
You're on a different level than a lot of people, because finding your purpose is painful. Because some people, I talked to Benny Pugh. Salute to Benny Pugh, former president of Rock Nation, current CEO of Diverse Media, right? And one of the quotes that I love that he said is, the people that you start out with are not the people that you're going to end up with most times. And when you find your purpose, you have to let a lot of things and a lot of people go to walk in the light, because other people are going to overshadow your talents. That's a pain people go through. You didn't go through that.
No, that I had to let people go. No. Karev, you touched on something earlier when you were talking about the spiritual meaning of a scorpion, right? And you touched on introversion. I'm an introvert. I'm a heavy introvert. But within social spaces, you would know that I'm an introvert, right? Like when social media, virtual spaces, you would know that, right? However, what a Skorpyo is, I mean, not Skorpyo, but what an introvert is, they replenish by being alone. So take it this way. An introvert, when we interact throughout the day, let's say we have a full bottle of water, right? Every time we interact with someone socially, we're giving some of that water away. We're giving some of that water away every time throughout. And we have to, the way that we replenish, fill that water bottle back up and go back to the spout is by spending time alone. And oftentimes spending time alone, we're reflecting on the day, what has happened, what somebody just said to us, thinking about what it means, doing all of those things, right? So my social or letting people go, that may have already been in process for me before starting my podcast. That may have already been in play for me, because I went through a space where I let pretty much all of my friends go right before podcasting, right? So maybe that pain happened before I found podcasting. When you say it that way, that's what is making me think, well, did I go through the pain before and the podcasting was my healing? Probably so. Podcasting provided me a space to heal, to grow, and to connect with folk that understand what podcasting can do for you, right? Podcasting can be a healing for folk if you use it in that way. So that's probably what podcasting provided for me. So maybe that's what it was. When you say it that way, That's perhaps what it was. Maybe I was coming into it. That's what needed to happen to get me to this space where I found something that I was truly passionate about and that I wanted to do all the time, and where I wanted to connect with folk. And so maybe that's what it was.
We're talking to Skorpyen November on the Heritage Hip Hop Podcast. Make sure you check out her movement on all social media. You'll get that soon enough. But Skorpyen November is somebody that you need to know. Let's find out why right now. I think the microphone is one of the scariest instruments a person has ever put into another person's hands. Mm-hmm. You know, because now somebody's giving you the power to express, and that expression now is your identity to thousands, millions, billions who hear your voice. Yeah. What did you say that left a lasting word or mark on somebody that they've told you?
You know what, Karev? You and I don't know if you remember Blake from Building Better Brands from Diary of a Mad Black Man podcast, right?
Yep.
You two are the ones that were like, you know, after appearing on the podcast, was like, I didn't expect that. You know, the way that you asked me the questions and the way that you said this, you know, and Karev, you're just one of those people that always feed into folk. And I don't think you like to hear folk tell you that, but you are amazing in that way of making folks think of things, to look at themselves in a different way and kind of get an idea of how other folks perceive them. Because usually in my mind, the way that I go about things, right? And what allows me to have some peace in this space is that it's not my business what other folk think of me. It's really not. I can't control it. All I can do is try to be my best self and move with love and respect behind the things that I do, right? Now, whatever comes out of that is out of my control, right? And so for me, when you and Blake were telling me your experiences, that was some of the most rewarding things. Why? Because you're podcasters too, and you understand what it's like. You understand the responsibility that comes with the mic. And because I was genuinely interested in you and what you had to say. And so I was like, okay, what do you think I didn't want to talk to him for real? So I was genuinely interested in what you all had to say. So I think some of the best things for me come from fellow podcasters and understanding what I do and appreciating what I'm doing.
Okay. So, the microphone itself is very freeing, but it also is a sign of captivity as well. Because when you start talking, you get a following of people who are fed by your words. Has podcasting ever opened you up to something that could have been potentially hurtful or dangerous to you that you had to cut off as well?
Not that I'm aware of. If it did, I didn't pay it any attention, right? Because I believe fear is either a deterrent or a motivator. It just is what it is. Either you can let that fear deter you from doing what you want to do, or you can use it as motivation to be like, okay, I'm going to work through this. This is a challenge that I have to conquer, right? And usually on the other side of that, what happens? There's some reward there or something unexpected, some unexpected gain there on the other side. But if you operate within the bounds of that and letting that keep you back from doing things, then you'll never know. If I had have not picked up the mic to start recording in the first place, I would have never met you, Karev. Never. I wouldn't be here right now talking to you. Of course, there was the fear before starting the podcast, like, will anybody listen? Anybody be interested in what I have to say? You know, you have those fears, but if I operate within the bounds of that, then I'll never know. I'll never know. I'll be stuck wondering, having regret and resentment because I allowed myself to operate in a space that is not of God, that is not of love in the first place. And I can't allow myself to do that. Now, is that easy all the time? Heck no. No, it's not easy, but it's worth it.
Okay. So let's have some fun then to show people the
Okay.
type of love that you give the world. You have 3 podcasts. For your interview, I'll devise 3 topics to fit every point of your podcast so we can talk about it and you can get some dialogue back and forth because we're both going to use this content, both of us. So
Okay.
you have the Mouth Skorpyo podcast.
I do.
You have the Fyx.
I
You have
do.
If It Isn't Love.
Yes.
Right. Which podcast would you like to delve into first so we can have some fun?
Gotta choose. Okay. Well, since I have on a Smart Mouth Skorpyo sweatshirt today,
Show it to
we'll do
him.
that.
That's right. Get that merch. That's right.
Yeah, so we'll go there. We'll go there today.
Kyle Rittenhouse got found not guilty on all charges.
Oh, you're going in heavy. Okay, I'm ready.
What does that mean to American society when now people of Caucasian descent are saying that people can get murdered for standing for something and their lives mean nothing the same way as people of color have seen happen to them for generations on end in this country?
This just reiterates what America already knows. We
Mhm.
already knew this. White people already know this. White people already know they stand in a position of privilege. And for them to act as if they don't is BS and it's a lie. And so we know as Black folk that there are certain that we often don't receive justice from the criminal justice system. The criminal justice system was created for us to criminalize us. So why wouldn't it do the job that it's meant to do, right? To criminalize Black folk and to validate the actions of white folks. So this is nothing new. It was not something that wasn't expected. It was something that was hoped to have a different outcome.
Okay.
But that, was unexpected. It just America was being America. We have judges in place that seek to uphold the history, the status quo, the oppression of America, and they're doing their dang on jobs well.
You know what's funny? I didn't think he was guilty. And I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay.
Self-defense. Because if the guy charged him, he had the right to shoot him. He did not have the right to continuously shoot that man when he was on the ground.
But did he go there seeking that?
That goes to my next question. Who was the real criminal in the case? Was it Kyle Rittenhouse?
He went there seeking. You go look for trouble and you get trouble. You can't cry when the trouble finds you. That's like if you slap the shit out of me and I beat your ass, you can't be mad. I gave you what you was asking for.
Facts. I don't think it's right that he has no charges. Let me just say that before somebody jumps on Heritage Hip Hop and tells me I'm bugging. I don't care what you think. I'm not scared of you.
Mm-hmm.
But in perspective, I'm saying when it comes to the law, I can see them letting him get off for that reason. Because remember, this is the Good Old Boy Network, and he followed good old boy tradition. I'm doing this so everybody knows, allegedly. But being a young man under the age of 18, 17, whatever, with that type of rifle in his hands, to do such acts, then to be celebrated, and then when the law was coming, to be escorted across county and state lines by your mother, I think we have to identify who the real criminal is in the case. And it is not just him, it's his parent, it is the society in which he lives in, and then the blind lady of law and justice and liberty that is failing people to understand who they are and the purpose, like you said earlier, and the purpose that we are supposed to live and uphold when it comes to society. What do you think?
I think what you're saying to me and what I gather, right, is that the law has no integrity. Has no integrity. It did what it was created to do, right? So so it did what it was created to do. The law has no integrity as it relates to the protection of Black folk.
But it wasn't Black folks in this case, in this trial. So that's why it's so significant. This trial is significant to me because he didn't murder, allegedly, people of color.
But did he not go there to
We don't know.
What did he go there to do? And
Exactly.
we're not the people that he killed in the fight with black folk, for black folk. Again, so it's saying, okay, your allies, the allies of black folks are not offered the same protection either, right? The law doesn't serve them either. That's what it's saying. So again, the law did what it was supposed to do. The justice system did what it was supposed to do. That young man, no matter who took him there, he knew what he was doing, right? And there should be some equity within the law. There's not.
No, there's not.
There's not. So again, my opinion remains the same, that America did what America.
And that is the scariest thing about this country, is that a young man at 16 years old can have a judge throw out his gun charge, and then the jury could find him not guilty, while another young man who was trying to make a way home to his family because of his melanated, God-given skin can be murdered, and then the person who supposedly saw a threat of him being out and about and becoming a killer, murderer, can get off. And they both have the same outcome. Is just ridiculous to me. Even with the Ahmaud Arbery case that's going on now. They said the Ahmaud Arbery murder case, because he was murdered. He's not on trial. 11 jurors out of 12 are not melanated. That worries me, because the defendant, the son, said he grabbed my gun, so I shot him because I knew he was going to shoot me. If you didn't walk up to this young man with a gun in the first place, no one would have got killed or murdered at all. And America has this love fascination with violence and guns that's so unhealthy that I even fear little children in my family playing with guns, because I don't want them scared of it. I don't want them to be condemned to the prejudicial thought of, because they have a gun, they know the wrong things and they're automatically killers from the door, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this trial also reiterates something, that allyship does not, it sought to send a message that allyship to black folk does not serve you well as a white person.
Yeah, freedom rides taught us that.
So again, it did what it was supposed to. America did what it was supposed to do. The justice system did what it was supposed to do. What it was designed to do. Let me say that.
Young Dolph was murdered a couple of days ago.
Unfortunately, yes.
Rest in peace to young Dolph. And what we've come to find out is the person is people in the record industry that sign these young men and take out life insurance policies on them, and then when they die, they collect the rewards of the records and their lives. Like I said, America has a preoccupation with gun violence. In knowing these things, how do you think we protect our youth from being entertained into the casket while living with a society who's ushering them into the casket for how they look?
I don't have the answer to that. I really don't have the answer to that, because it's more than just telling folk not to do something, right? And you can tell people not to do things, these certain things, but when they're seeing other folks doing the things that you tell them not to do, and those folks are rewarded greatly in monetary ways with celebrity and so many other things, what do you do in those instances, right? Without vilifying other folk that don't mean that aren't doing anything necessarily wrong. So how do you do that? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I wish I did have the answer to that, because I would be screaming it from the mountaintops. Seriously. but I don't have to use them.
So everybody out there watching this is an example of the type of conversation that you hear on the SMS podcast, the Mouth Skorpyo podcast. So make sure you go to Spotify and you follow the podcast and seek more of this great conversation and great knowledge. But guess what? That's only one of the 3 podcasts that she does. What's the next one would you like to tackle in this interview?
Let's go to the Fyx. We'll go there. We'll go in order that they were created. We'll go to the Fyx.
Okay, so the Fyx deals with entertainment culture, correct?
Primarily movies and television. Yes.
Okay. The Harder They Fall just came out. And that movie is the Avengers of Black Western heroes and outlaws and vigilantes. Even though they took liberty with the characters to tell a good story, what makes that movie an iconic movie for Black culture today, in your opinion?
So many reasons, right? That I will say this now, that's a classic. I don't care what anybody say. I argue with you from here to yonder. That's a classic. It was important because of representation. Although they took liberty with the characters, right? The movie wasn't promoted as a historical, as a documentary. It wasn't saying this is a biopic. It wasn't presented as such. And so oftentimes with movies, historical figures, characters are that their image is used to tell a story that may not be necessarily an exact parallel to the way that particular historical figure lived their life, right? This isn't like it was they took Malcolm X's character and did this, right? Malcolm X's image and made a character called Malcolm X, and or MLK, or some Omega Evers, or Mary Cloud Bethune, or Ida B. Wells, and so many others. I can go on and on. They didn't take those images and do those things, right?
Okay.
So, but it showed that there were that people that were erased from the history of the Wild Wild West. You can't do that. And I say Wild Wild West because whatever, because of the movie Wild Wild West. But anyway, you can't erase the history, which is so often done. And you can't erase our heroes either. We have heroes too. Are y'all the only ones with heroic figures? Are y'all supposed to come in and save everything? And another reason that this was important, that it didn't have a white savior in here. I equate this to like some of the stories by Toni Morrison, whom I love, right? That there were no white antagonists in her stories, in her books, right? It wasn't her stories weren't focused on whites being the main characters in her book. They were more like in the peripheral, if even there. Do you know what I mean? This was the same way here. You just happenstance be in this movie, but it's not about you. Why does it always have to be about you? Why can't it be about us? And that's what that movie said, that we have communities and we have stories that do not include you. And it's important to tell those as well. And it's important that those stories be celebrated as well. It's important for our young folk to see us on the screen and in historical settings without it being attached to them owning us. And I do that in air quotes. It's important to tell those stories as well, and so many other reasons. And this story, like I said, it's a classic. So great grandchildren will watch this film and love that film and pick up on some of the one-liners, or that, and some of the stories, and pick up on some of the imagery, and which will be outdated by then, but it will be celebrated for the imagery that it was at the time, and for it being in a Black film, a Black-led film. So for that and more.
Eloquently said. Thank you. I think there's more to it than that, though.
Oh, like I said, there's more. What do you think?
Check this
We could
out.
talk about this the whole episode if you want. So.
Oh no, it's only a taste. This is the preview, everybody. But you know what? There was 3. How many you want? 3 or 4? I'll let you choose. It's your interview.
Okay, we'll go 4. I'll be greedy. I want 4.
All right. There's 4 things that came out of this movie that people slept on.
Okay.
Number 1, when Hollywood was asked about the Marvel movie culture, a prominent white director said the comic book genre has to die soon, and we have to get back to the modern hero tale. It will take a great Western to get the comic book taste out of our mouths, and the Harder They Fall is a Western. So it showed that we are ahead of the curve, where people think all we make is power and gangster movies, where we actually have some creativity and depth within our culture. So salute to Idris Elba and Jay-Z and everybody behind it, because you were ahead of the curve on this one. So I salute you. And it just goes to show we can tell more than one type of story.
True.
That was first. Second, the Easter eggs and references to Black culture was so deep that people missed the whole point. Like, people were excited that the train in the movie was named after Chadwick Boseman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was nice. What about the power symbols that were in the movie? Like, for one, every time the characters from the Rufus Buck gang saw each other, they touched heads. That's called bunting. That's what lions do to show respect and love to each other. And you know, lions are kings. We can't keep calling ourselves kings and queens and not referring to the royalty in society of natural society, nature, and things like that. Mm-hmm. That was a power symbol that people may have missed. The second one that stood out to me the first time I saw it was when Regina King did the Malcolm X finger point. Mm-hmm. And the Cowboys move, and I was like, oh, I saw that, I was like, that's a power symbol. It just goes to show that with our culture, just like others, we could connect things and reference power so it runs deep within our souls, consciously and subconsciously. That's 2 things, y'all. Peace. You see what I'm saying? The third thing about that movie that drove me to drink, actually, was the simple fact all movies take liberties. So for people to point this out, like, well, they weren't in real life together and all that. I've never seen Spider-Man meet Batman at all. So I'm saying, let's just be real, okay? Them taking historical figures and making them heroes, that's the culture that's been around since African mythology, since Abby-Yo-Yo and Anansi the Spider. If you like Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, these hero movies are the modern day mythologies that children are going to use to become heroes themselves. So when people say they took liberty, I'm like, so what? That's a great thing, because then that's great storytelling. It also forced you to go back and do your history, because the story of Cuffy Williams was really deep, and she's one of my favorite people in that movie, and historically. All right. The last thing that made that movie great to me was the impact of the mind from the movie. The twist at the end was crazy. Mm-hmm. But the more impactful thing that I saw was people of color in powerful positions that weren't stepping fetchits. They weren't the Jezebels, and they're not the Stephen A. Smiths of the game. The people just talk about anything. These were men and women who had cultural referencing that empowers the mind of a child on the come up. So we might see Red Dead Redemption, the video game, come up with Black cowboys in it that you could play with. You might see young men and young women actually go into learning about the West now, which is a story about entrepreneurship, business mindedness, having your own, because that's what the town was, having your own town. So people couldn't make treaties with you and take over what's yours. It was a lot of deep referencing of business, purpose, identity. And those are the things that people, if you're not thinking about it, are losing in effect because you're entertained without being learned. You see what I'm saying? That's what I got from it. I mean, what you take off of what I said?
I appreciate you breaking it down in that way. I didn't necessarily break it down in that way. I didn't know you wanted me to, but I
No, it's
appreciate you
cool.
doing that. I appreciate you doing that, and I appreciate you pointing out key factors that and themes that were important. And one thing that I want to add on to that is that I want people to remember and think about the way in Rufus sought to govern and the way Nat Love sought to govern or handle what was it, Douglastown?
Mm-hmm.
Or the way that was handled, right? There were two different perspectives in two different ways, right? And I'm not going to say what it is and what my thought is, because I want people to think of it in that way, because it's an important conversation as it relates to the liberation of Black folk, to think about the ways in both of those men sought to liberate Black folk, right? But they went about it in different ways. Was one necessarily more wrong than the other?
You know, that's always a train of thought, because anything that has to do with our folks, it comes with one or the other always. And it's sad that it is that way, but I don't know. What can I tell you? I got a question to ask you, but we'll save it for the end of the interview, because this is good. This is real good. So everybody, this is an example of the Fyx Podcast by Skorpyen November. Make sure you follow her on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, or whatever you get your podcast, because this is the type of conversation you have on that podcast as well. The last is the If It Isn't Love podcast, which is about music.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to give you a song.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a line from a song.
Oh Lord, let's see if I.
And I want to see.
Me.
I want to see where. No, I'm gonna give you the song. Let me get the name of the
Okay.
song real fast. It's from Snoop Dogg's new album that came out today called The Algorithm. And the song features Redman, Method Man, and Nefertiti Avani, who's a new artist.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't think I've heard of her. Okay.
And she said a line in the song today that just made me go, because we don't celebrate the female mind for its deepness. People celebrate the female for how thick she is and her ability to be quiet or to shake her behind. Like I said, that's all good when it's time for that. But you also have to celebrate the mind for what God gave it to be, and that's creative. And she said in the song, I am the truth, and the truth does not need you to believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean to you?
The truth stands alone. It doesn't need validating. It doesn't need explaining. It is what it is. It is what it is. I don't need to explain it to you. I don't need to justify my existence to you. I am the truth. I am here. I deserve to be here, but I don't have to validate that to you. I don't have to explain it. Either you get with it or you get gone. It is what it is.
But what is truth?
Truth is love. I am love. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.
Truth is also pain.
What and how so?
It's universal. There's only one truth that people all understand. That shit hurts. Whether you lose a loved one, you lose some money. I don't care. Me, I'm a big sucker. Look, I hit my pinky toe on the side of the bed, I'm fainting. Pain is crazy. I hate it. You know what I'm saying? I can't do it. But at the end of the day, you talk to somebody who's hit their baby toe on the side of a bed, they'll be like, oh yeah, it's relative because it's happened before. But there's some people that even when you talk about love, the pain part of love is the thing that people can relate to.
But why is love necessarily pain?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Why?
Why is love necessarily pain?
Is it because we make it so?
No.
Is it because we make it so?
No.
I don't believe love is pain. I believe love is love. I believe or perhaps I can look at it this way. Perhaps I can acquiesce to your point in the sense of using the words of the great Lauryn Hill. Everything is everything. Everything is everything, right? And when you think, I don't know if you all have ever read the book Siddhartha by Herman.
Oh my God, great book.
Yes. And if you read that book, you'll understand from the perspective that I'm coming. Everything is everything. But I will acquiesce to your point. I will acquiesce if I'm looking at it from that perspective that everything is everything.
All right, Lauren Hill, I got you. Look, you want to go song for song? That's what you're gonna do? All right,
No, I was just saying. Oh, and I'm telling you this. Everybody is. I don't know if y'all have checked out that song because we just spoke of the movie The Harder They Fall, Black Woman by Fatu Ambada. I can't pronounce the last name. And Lauren Hill, Black Woman. If you have it, go sit with it, check it out, listen. It's a great song.
What's the most powerful love song you've ever heard?
I don't know if it's the most powerful, but is one of the most real in the sense of Al Green's Simply Beautiful. The words are so simplistic, right? And one of the things he says in one of the lyrics, he says, if I gave you my love, there's a whole lot that I do, and I'd expect a whole lot of you, a whole lot out of you. And that goes back to what I said initially with people and the misunderstanding of what love is, right? They expect to be able to control in some type of way, or that it gives them some type of power in some type of way if you love them and they love you back, instead of it being free.
Nothing's free in this world except for pain, death, and misery.
Love is free.
Should be.
That's what love is. And if you're operating in love, it is free. Again, see, you proving my point when I say
I'm listening to you. What's up?
That when people equate love, they equate it to some sense of attachment, some sense of control, some sense of power.
I think that's what it comes down to, even with love songs. When you think of love songs, people sing more about pain than they do the feeling of being happy. I mean, let's give it up to Alicia Myers. I Want to Thank You, Heavenly Father. That's one of the deepest love songs I've heard in my life. But so is Sam Cooke, Change Will Come. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's love on a different strata. And when you think about love in music, another pivotal love song for me that changed my life was Love's Gonna Get You by KRS-One. You know, shout out to Boogie Down Productions for y'all who don't know. Watch the verses with Big Daddy Kane. If you missed it, I'm saying. Love's Gonna Get You is one of those songs that really talk to materialistic love. And that's the love that America has operated on, especially since the Reagan era. That they even started a church called Greed, the Greed Church. Because greed is a religion on the books in America, if you never knew. Has its own Sabbath day and everything. Okay? So when we talk about love, it's like to me, when you talk about love to me, it's like talking about God. I need to know your perspective, because when people say God, everybody thinks of this universal thing, but everybody don't believe in the universal God. So, you have to actually pay attention to the perspective of what your person comes from. I had an artist tell me a real love song can interchange God and a human, and you would not even know, because the thing that makes love so powerful is it can be given to anyone the same way at the same time. It's just not always received by everyone the same way. Go ahead, say
Hello,
it.
artist. Hello. Hello.
So I ask you this question, understanding your perspective of love and knowing what the truth is, because the truth stands alone, you said, right? If the truth stands alone, why are so many people afraid to hear, accept, or acknowledge the truth?
Because they are not operating in love. If you are operating in, again, love is everything. Love is God, right? God is the truth, right? So if you are not operating in love, how can you accept the truth?
Once again, what is truth? That's the question Pontius Pilate asked Christ before the crucifixion. He said, veritas. Veritas? Veritas means truth. And verily, verily, which means very, very truthfully speaking, a lot of people know more about pain than love, because unfortunately, that's what the world has given us. And until you find yourself, you'll never know truly what love is for you. Period. I don't even know what to say after that. I mean, it is what it is. Siddhartha Gautama, great book. Yeah, I read that in high school. That was a great book.
Look at the Karev being real well read. Love to see it.
Oh, yeah, I read a little bit. I read a little bit.
Little bit.
My library behind me isn't real extensive, but it's pretty good, you know.
You got what counts. What counts. I'm an avid reader too. I have not been able to read as much as I would like to, as of late, but we'll get back to that. Because sometimes, but everybody says, well, it's just the same thing being written over and over again. Perhaps that is true. However, sometimes you watch the same shows over and over again. You listen to the same songs are played over and over again, right? But you still enjoy them.
That's in many theories, that's 100% true. I just had this conversation with a friend of mine. They watched The Flash on CW, you know the show? And I'll tell you, he was like, yeah, how you been keeping up with it? I'm like, hell no. He's like, why? I'm like, because every show out of that whole thing is always a group of people that get together at a table, they come up with a plan, say right, and they run around and they find out what's wrong, and then the episode ends. I don't like stuff like that. It's too monotonous. I want something that's going to make me think. When I have 7 shows of the same plot line, leave me alone. You know what I'm saying? That's why I don't watch TV. That's why I'm not a movie person. I'd rather be left alone. It takes something very special to get me to sit down and watch TV. And I want to shout out what's his name, Jonathan Majors, that's his name, from How Did They Fall? Because in Lovecraft Country, that was excellent.
Yes.
Way different than the book, but it's excellent. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sad there's not a second season coming of that show, but
Hey, I'll leave it as a classic. You don't got to touch it no more.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Okay.
So everybody, that was an example of the If It Isn't Love podcast, which once again is available everywhere you stream your podcast. She has 3 different examples of how dope my guest is, and do yourself a favor and not be corny. Go check her out, because she's well worth the time. She's well worth the space in here that you're going to fill with the information and knowledge that she has. She is dope beyond all words, for real. Hey, no, I people talking to me about you enough. Believe me, you're dope. All right. So before we close out our interview, is there anything that you want to say before we have some fun?
I just want everybody to just check out the my podcast. I would greatly appreciate it. Just search my name. That's the easiest way to find, my podcast. And if you like what you hear, leave me a positive rating on that platform, whether it be a 5 stars, a thumbs up, what have you. One thing you should know, like listening to Karev's podcast, when you like our podcast, that increases our discoverability for other folks that may be looking for something that we have to offer. So, provide us that one solid and like what you hear. Give us a thumbs up, 5 stars, leave a comment. Those things help so very much. And we appreciate y'all for listening, because we know y'all could be doing anything else in the world other than having us in your headspace. So we appreciate you.
And buy the merch. Show them
the merch.
Show them the sweatshirt. That's right. You gotta support my friend. At the end of the day, y'all,
Skorpmerch.com.
She is dope. Go to skorpmerch.com. SKORPMERCH.com.
Yep.
Get about 4 of them.
Give them out as Christmas gifts.
Exactly. Get about 4, and then check out the podcast if you like them. Because at the end of the day, Skorpyen, check this out. I think how people have used to have book clubs.
Yes.
They're going to be podcast clubs one day. There is. I know that's going to happen for a fact, especially with the Web3 thing we were told to study. Oh yes, as community is going to be big, and I can see it. So I believe one day you're going to be invited somewhere to talk, and you're going to do a live podcast taping with a studio audience and people asking you questions. I can really see it. So with that, may your introvert thing turn you into a superhero for other introverts, and may they see that your microphone isn't only a vocal tool, but it could be a tool to express spiritual freedom through expression. I really wish that for you. All right.
I appreciate that, and I received that. I received that so much, Gareth. Like I said, you're the greatest. One day you're gonna believe me. You're gonna believe me.
With all that being said, it's time to have some fun. Are you ready?
I was ready. I was ready.
All right. So the rapid fire questions are not yes, no questions. These are questions designed to show your depth of knowledge of your craft and also the hip hop culture.
All right.
You ready to go?
I don't know, but I'm gonna try.
I have different questions for you since you're not a musician.
Okay.
So
okay, well then I may be ready.
So here's gonna be your first. Oh no, you got musical questions, but this is geared towards you. All right.
You made my anxiety come down, then you brought it right back up.
yeah, I did. There you go. You know how people say, "What's your top 5 rappers?" and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the top 5 influencers who helped you form your podcast style?
You know what? That's a hard question to answer because I don't really model myself off of anybody. Now I will say people that I'm influenced by and that I enjoy. They're not necessarily in the podcast space as far as it like I'm looking at folk like, oh, I like this person. Probably person would be, I'm gonna say Ava DuVernay, right? Because she's one of the hardest working people that you see out there. She's always got something going on, right? Another person would be Zora Neale Hurston for her writing styles and her telling of stories. Another person would be Toni Morrison because of the same thing, right? And because of her intentionality with the storytelling. Another person probably would be let me see, because it's only supposed to be 5. I'm going to say, and this is going to sound corny as crap, but my mama gotta be in there. Okay. My mama gotta be in there because my mama can be very polarizing, right? But she is who she is, and either you like her or you don't. You know what I'm saying? Another person will probably be, and these would be people together as a couple, would be local people from Selma, Alabama, which is where I'm from. It's probably Hank Sanders and Rose Viatorre. They are husband and wife. Why? Because they were intentionally, authentically Black and didn't have any problem saying so, and were intentional upon creating spaces for the youth and doing so many badass things in that space, in that small ass town. So those would be the folks that come to my mind immediately.
That's fire. As a podcaster, what do you do to keep yourself energized to keep podcasting?
You know what? I pay attention, right? I get ideas from everything, from talking to people, from watching television shows, from looking outside, to reading things. I'm inspired every day. I come up with ideas every day because I hear what you do say and what you don't say, right? And sometimes that intrigues me by the things that people don't say. About the things that people don't say, when it's very clear what you want to say, but you refuse to say it. Okay. So I find those things keep me and with my creative juices flowing and being able to sit with myself in those thoughts.
Okay. Out of your 3 podcasts, which one do you enjoy the most?
That's hard. I will tell you the one that's most difficult. Okay. If I could. Mm-hmm. The one that's most difficult that comes with the most responsibility is Mouth Skorpyo Podcast. Why? Because I talk about Black life, Black culture, Black experiences. And I want to make sure that I'm representing in an authentic way that's true to myself, but also in a responsible way. And so sometimes with that responsibility, I have to make sure that I know what I'm talking about. And so sometimes some things that I want to talk about, I can't talk about because I'm like, I'm not that informed about that as much as I would like to be. And so that was, and there's research involved with talking about those subject matters. And sometimes I don't necessarily have the time to do the research, so I can't talk about it. So that's probably the most difficult, or I shouldn't say difficult, but the most
Challenging.
responsible. Most responsibility comes with it.
Well, thank you for being a journalist with integrity, because that's all that means, that you have integrity, that you're not just putting something out there for clickbait.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Okay. Let's see. What's my next question? Let me put my notes. Hold up. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for you, yo. You hear that?
He
That's all
trying to
paper.
get me, y'all. He
That's
trying
all
to
paper.
get me.
All right, here we go. Here's another one. What does it mean to you to be interviewed and not always the interviewer?
I'm gonna be real honest and transparent right here. It's a relief in that I'm not responsible to do the things, but it's also a lot of anxiety and fear attached to it because I'm not in control. And that's
Explain a little bit more. Wait, I'll explain a little bit more. We're in control of what? The flow?
I'm not in control of the flow. I'm not in control of the questions. I'm not in control of anything. So that's a vulnerable space to be. That's a vulnerable space to be at someone else's behest of their questions.
Podcasting is universal communication through the world. You're in Minnesota, premiering on a podcast in New Jersey. There's a place you could be featured. Where would you like to have your voice heard?
I have to choose one place?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, everywhere.
Okay. Is there one particular space you want, though?
I want my voice to be heard in the place where it's most impactful, wherever that is.
Okay.
And when I mean impactful, I mean doing the most good. That's where I want my voice to be heard.
Very generous.
And I can't say where that place is. I don't know. I guess it's within the ears of the folks that will receive it. That it helps. Because like this, I don't want to make it seem like I'm on some type of crusade. Let me be very clear. I'm not on some type of crusade. I just am. I'm just being who I am. And some of that it comes may come across intense to some folks. Some of it's fun, some of it's silly. I'm all of those things. I'm a whole lot of things, and I'm just being who I am. But most of all, what I want to do is make sure that I'm leaving a positive impact on the world, and however that is. And if I have a mic, I want to be responsible with that mic. That doesn't mean I'm not going to get on here and cuss sometimes. That doesn't mean I may not have an attitude sometimes. No, it means that I am a whole full human being, and I'm sharing that experience with you on the mic. That's what that means.
Okay. In light of the Shaka Khan Stephanie Mills verses, we got to see greatness in different realms. That verse is just crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you. And when we see the different possibilities of greatness, right? We get to see different perspectives of what being great actually is. We can't put great into a box. It's so defined. Just like the word genius, right? Define your greatness and your genius.
I don't know, Karan. I don't know what. You know what? For me to define that for myself, I don't know. I don't know what that is. I can't say that. That's for other people to just to say what that is to them, to what I am to them. I can't say what I am to you. I know for me, what I am to me is I'm trying to be the most loving self to myself and allow myself grace in spaces where I fall short, or where I perceive myself to fall short. That's what I'm trying to do. So
okay. I have 3 more questions for you, and then we're gonna end off. The first question is, if you had a dream guest for each one of your podcasts, who would you like to interview?
Oh my lamb, oh my lamb, oh my lamb, oh my lamb. Okay. See, I gotta choose one in those spaces. That's
one
hard.
dream guest for each one of your podcasts.
I have more than one dream though. I have several. I'm always dreaming.
Well, that's when they could come to your platform, right? And hear the rest.
Using podcasting to get to those dreams. Podcasting is the catalyst.
Okay.
to get to those. And so there's more than one. I'm pouting over here. Okay. Let's start with the Fyx, right? Okay. I can't choose just one. Okay, so it's a toss up between, I'm gonna say a toss up. A toss up between like Spike Lee, because I love me a Spike Lee joint, and Ava and Lena. So it's a 3-way tie.
Wow,
okay?
It's a 3-way toss up. Nice, she snuck that in there. Okay. A toss up is usually 2 sides, but she got 3. All right. Lena, Ava DuVernay, and Spike Lee. Okay, how about the Mouth Skorpyo podcast? All right. I'm listening.
Okay. Okay. This is okay. Does this person have to be living or is it dead or alive?
It's your choice.
These are hard, Karav. This question probably stumped me more than any other question, right?
Okay.
I'm gonna say this again, okay? And I know this would not ever happen, right? And it's for the sake of. No, I'm not even gonna say that. I'm gonna go a different direction because that's more of a personal one. So I'm gonna go a different. I'm going to say Betty Shabazz.
That would have been a great interview.
Betty Shabazz.
That would have been a great interview.
Yeah.
I could tell how your mind works and what you would ask. That would be interesting. Have you taken the steps to talk to people in that capacity since you can't get to her?
I have not. Although I do follow her daughter, Ilyasa. I do follow her, and I look intently at her post and how she words things and what she chooses to share and not share. So,
how about Tamika Mallory?
I do follow her. I also follow my son. I follow a number of folks. Yeah.
Have you reached out to her, I'm saying, to put on your podcast?
No, I have not.
Let's do it.
Okay.
No, really.
I know you serious. I know you wouldn't have said it if you were serious.
I mean, hey, it's just a yes or no or a non-answer. At least you put it out there.
Yeah.
Believe me, I get a lot of those non-answers, so it's all good.
Yeah, that's why I say either it's a gay nay or a no response.
And if it is a love podcast?
Oh, okay. This is not fair at all because I'm thinking of songwriters, right? Okay, so I'm not saying these. I'm gonna mention a number of people. I'm gonna tell you why, right? And this is not saying that this is my choice, right? I like the brothers from Jagged Edge. Because of the way they write, right? They write artless songs, so I like them. I like Joe because of his writing style, and he just has in his melodies that he creates, right? And then I love me some Maxwell. So, and then I love some Alicia Keys, and then I love Kirby too, which is new because of the way she does things. So if I had to just choose just one, I would choose probably Aretha Franklin.
None of the above. Okay. You just went with the one that you can't get to, which is crazy. Okay. No doubt. All right. Okay. That was
That's the way my mind works. I'm telling you, there's so many thoughts running through my mind at one time that sometimes you just have to
accept the madness. Hey, that's a mark of genius though. If your mind was static, you'd be dead. Just remember that.
I received that.
All right. So that was question number 1 of the last 3.
What?
Yeah, because that's the only one question. You took it around the mulberry bush, picked crops, and cooked it. I mean, you did your thing. I ain't mad at you.
Okay.
The second question. Matter of fact, I'm gonna cut your question down. How'd you like being on Heritage Hip Hop? Would you recommend us to anybody else?
I would. I have loved being on this platform, Karev. We have been trying to make this happen for a while, and it finally happened. I'm ecstatic about being on it. Why? Because it's yours, and I know you have integrity as it relates to your podcast, right? I know you love your podcast, and I know you take great responsibility in it. So to be on this platform with you, somebody that's so dope, the greatest, I couldn't, I've been trying to get on here, you know that. And so it was just like, I'm going to be on Karel's podcast. You know what I'm saying? This is exciting. This is exciting to just be able to have conversation on your podcast, much like conversation that we have otherwise, but it's more, instead of conversational, it is conversational, but where you're asking me probing questions. And I enjoy it because I always enjoy having conversation with you, and for our minds to engage with one another and see where each other is going. So this was dope. And yes, you should come on. It's not for the faint at heart. So come ready.
That's funny.
Come ready. Come ready, because he's going to ask you. He's going to ask you the things that you didn't think nobody was going to ask you. And you're going to be like, what the hell did I just step into? But it's so much fun.
It was important for me to have you on the podcast because I love what you do so much that I want to work with you yearly as well. I don't want to add nothing to your plate, but to do at least 4 shows a year with you would be a blessing, quarterly, because I like to align myself with great individuals, because in my mind, I was told my platform would blow to be one of the greatest things. May the Most High make it happen. Everybody always says things, but if it does, if I ever got the chance to make a network, your platform is one that I would have to come and get you a great deal or something, and you have to be a part of the network as well. Like Charlemagne made the Black Effect and did that for whoever, and one of my heroes of podcasting and hip hop, Doggy Diamonds, he was behind the Gangster Chronicles, his own show, talk of Blizz Johnson and other people. I'll definitely see you as, I wouldn't call you an asset because that means that you have some type of value to make money. I would just call you a blessing because you are an extension of God's purpose. You're knowledgeable. You have equity in knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And from you, I get a lot of insight. So I thank you and respect you in that way.
Oh, thank you, Karev. You see what I mean, y'all? Karev has the ability to make you feel like you're the shit, like top dog shit, like the most valuable of everything in the world. Like he just has that ability to feed into you. So if you're ever having any doubt, just talk to Karev. If you have any doubt about your purpose of what you're doing or your impact, talk to Karev. He is that. He is a true reflection of who he says he is. This is whether he's on camera or off the camera. What you see, he's the same across the board. He's dope. He's the greatest. I'm gonna get you a shirt that says the greatest. I am the greatest.
Whatever. So we thank Miss Skorpyen November for coming on the Heritage Hip Hop Podcast. Make sure you follow her on all social media and ClubHouse, because she didn't talk about that. You want to tell them about what you do on ClubHouse, by the way?
Oh, sure. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, I have morning rooms every Monday through Friday. So if you're a podcaster, I have rooms on ClubHouse at 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern time for 30 minutes intentionally to talk about podcasting and podcast adjacent things. So you're more than welcome to tap in there. Also, I hold a room in conjunction with my other podcast, If It Is a Love Podcast. I hold a room every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, where I talk about lyrics. So the room is called Lyric Talk, where we break down the lyrics to a lyrically superior song that I consider lyrically superior, whether that be a hip hop song or a R&B song. Karev was in the room, featured in the room, where we broke down Miss Fat Booty by Mos Def, Yasin Bey. We just recently broke down the lyrics to Raphael Sadiq, Good Man. So every Tuesday there's a different different song featured, and that's at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. Every Thursday, we have movie talk that's in conjunction with the Fyx Podcast. And we talk about one of our favorite Black-led movies or a movie that's impactful. We recently talked about The Harder They Fall. We talked about Passing this past week, starring Tessa Thompson and Ruth Negga. We talked about the not docu-series, but the mini-series on Netflix, Colin in Black and White. So tap in. So we always have something going on ClubHouse. Search my name, Skorpyen November, and tap in with me.
Hey, y'all heard what she said. This is Karev at Heritage Hip Hop. You can find me at Heritage Hip Hop on everything. My digital real estate is heritagehiphop.com, which is connected to YouTube, Instagram, ClubHouse, Facebook, all over. So you can follow heritagehiphop.com for our podcast, for interviews, blogs, merch. And because Skorpyen November had me on for the Miss Fat Booty conversation, it inspired me to finish up one of my playlists. So the Artist Story Rhymes Part 1 is out with some of your favorite story rhyme artists that told complete minds of thoughts and songs. So if you are a member of heritagehiphop.com, you can get that exclusively for you. And we also have playlist number 9. If you're a member, you get all free music and exclusives. If not, well, visit the website, see if you like it, and you have some music you can stream on there as well. All right. We've come to the end of this interview, and I want to ask the final question, which is always the final question of the first interview. You will see Miss November back again, hopefully very soon. And I have a big idea for us. And if it works out, those 4 times a year are going to be substantial to your development as much as ours. All right. So the last question I asked you is this: because podcasting is taking over the world by storm to the point where now you have podcasts everywhere, and I was able to be nominated by the Black Pod Awards for the music podcast. I was in the final 3. Everybody, I believe so, but God bless the people who won. I guess if you got like an industry behind you, that people you automatically win. But podcasting is going to be recognized in the future as one of the textbooks that taught American culture about itself. So when they go and do the history on your 3 podcasts, you can choose one or either of them or all of them collectively. I just want to know, what is the legacy that you left behind or going to leave behind that's going to make the world better because they've experienced your podcast?
Ooh, that's so interesting that you would ask me that, because we just talked about that in podcast talk, right? Your legacy. What will your podcast say about you? I think my legacy will say real, authentic. Because it is what it is. You will see, it will show my vulnerable side. It will show my empowered side, me being on my King Kong shit sometimes. It will show it will show all of those things. So it will show a well-rounded Black woman that is intentionally Black and intentionally creating celebratory Black spaces for Black folk.
Okay. Because she said that, that was the best outro I've ever had in my life. I don't even know what to say. But what I will say is everybody who's watching this podcast, make sure you follow us and give us the ratings. Let us know that you like it. Like, comment, share, give 5 stars, etc. But being real is the most important thing that life is all about, because the most realest thing God ever said was, let there be. And when he said that, it made way for you. So if God laid the path, make sure you lead the path for others by being truthful, be loving, and more importantly, live, be alive, and give the world your knowledge, because God gave you the knowledge to teach. Everybody has a right to teach, and everybody has a right to be taught. And through being taught, we lay the foundations for others to come after us as we become the ancestors whose shoulders they stand on. Once again, this is Karev for Heritage Hip Hop with the fabulous, beautiful, and articulately incredible. Like, she's dope. Like, I don't know how to say it. Just put DOP on the shirt, give it to her. Dope. Skorpyen November. Make sure you follow her on all social media. And guess what, y'all? Peace. We out.